So I get a chance to work with a lot of entrepreneurs every single year. And the one main problem that a lot of them have is they don't know how to get started, or they have a question about how do I start this, or how do I do this. And what I try to show people is the hardest thing of starting anything that's new is just getting started, making the first phone call, making the first sale. There's so many people that think that starting a business is just rocket science, right? It will be if you make it that way. But if you really want things to be easy, focus on making the first sale. Focus on making that first phone call. Focus on sending those emails out. The more things that you do that get you towards making the first sale of any business, solving a problem, will give you confidence. And when you get confidence in business, you start to get momentum, and that's when beautiful things happen. So growing up, I always battled self-esteem issues, confidence, low self-esteem, and when I got into university and I started to speak in front of my peers and getting up in front of the classrooms, and more importantly, doing more of what I love to do. And the first part of it was sports, and then sports led me into starting a business, and then in business, I started to build an emotional tolerance, meaning there's lots of highs and lows in business, and you have to try stay positive. So if when you're going through those highs and lows in life in general, it's very important to find ways to protect your confidence. You develop your confidence by doing things that you're good at, gaining momentum in it. It builds your confidence. But when your back's against the wall, try to protect it at all costs, because that's going to get you out of those times that are tough. So I want to tell you something. If you're one of those people who, you grew up with, maybe you didn't have a lot, or maybe you had to go through some big obstacles growing up, I just want to share with you that those people who have gone through things, have experienced things more than other people, maybe their friends, it's actually somewhat of an advantage to getting ahead in the future. I'm going to tell you why. Because when people who go through those things and they know what sacrifice is, especially the key word there is sacrifice, they know how to sacrifice things to get something in the future. When you finally get your goal, or you achieve something in the future, you know how to appreciate that, as opposed to people who don't know what that feels like. So if you know how to sacrifice, it's a blessing, because you know how to appreciate what's to come. One of the things I had to learn the hard way in business and in life was I used to try to replicate what other successful people were doing, and I quickly found out that a lot of the times those things never worked for me. And I started to go back to what I was good at, and I would apply that to those situations. And guess what happened? I usually had more success that way. And I found too often a lot of people online are idolizing people, looking up to people, which isn't a bad thing. However, when you try to replicate exact systems that they use that make them successful, it's very hard to guarantee someone else's success. But one thing I can recommend is to use your gifts that you have, that make you awesome, that give you, that help you to get momentum and to achieve goals. That's what's going to get you further than any system out there, is your gifts that you possess. If you ever get a chance, and I recommend everyone do this, find a mentor, find someone that you can ask questions, find someone who's accomplished things that you want to accomplish, or something similar. You'd be surprised if just by asking for help, how many people will give you some time to try to help you on your journey. Mentorship has been influential for me, having a coach, having a mentor, having many guides throughout my life. And I guarantee if you take the time to ask for help, you'd be surprised how many people would say yes. And but here's the key: when that happens to you, do the same for someone else. Okay, don't just take. Give it back, pay it forward, and you will see many blessings come your way. One of the things that a lot of people have a lot of problems with is change. Sometimes when we are so complacent in our lives, or we get comfortable, sometimes life will force us to change, and in the form of obstacles. problems. That's usually how it looks like. And if you can change your thinking as opposed to thinking, why is this happening to me, and change it to, what can I learn from this situation, or what can I learn from this event that's happening in my life right now, usually you'll find the reason. If you really look at life that way, as opposed to thinking, why is this happening to me, try to think of it as, what can I learn from this situation right now? What am I meant to learn from this right now? I've been to a lot of places across Canada. I've been to remote communities where I've seen people who had parents, who don't have parents, who grew up in foster care with their grandma, their grandpa, or whoever, aunties, uncles, relatives, strangers. And I just want to tell you something, for myself personally, I have a few kids, and they teach me a lot of lessons every single day. They keep me in the moment, they keep me humble, and they really test my patience and my thoughts a lot of times. So I want to have a challenge for you, and the challenge is to, don't be afraid to tell your kids you love them. Don't be afraid to tell your kids how much you appreciate them. Because there's a lot of kids out there, a lot of people out there who never had those kind of parents before. So be that person who's not afraid to show how much affection that you have for the people that you love, your kids, and so on. Because that's going to come back to them in the future, and they're going to reciprocate that to the future and their children, and so on.